Welcome to Skinner and Chalmers Weekly Roast. Today, Melissa's special produced tea, Tranquility, and Telepathy.
Good evening, Memfield, or good morning or day, depending on when you're tuning in. Welcome to another thrilling episode of Skinner and Chalmers Weekly Roast. I'm Yamer Skinner, your friendly neighborhood principal with slightly singed cooking habits.
And I'm Gary Chalmers, your superintendent, amateur philosopher, and apparently professional hedgerow negotiator. Oh boy, have we got stories for you today.
Ah, yes, the saga of Sonic's hedge continues. I'm beginning to think Gizmo has some kind of vendetta against perfectly trimmed foliage.
Vendetta. That gator treats Sonic's hedge like an all. You can eat buffet. Do you know how many times I've had to apologize to Sonic this week? He's starting to think I'm enabling it.
To be fair, you did bring Gizmo to that neighborhood barbecue last year. Maybe he still associates Sonic's yard with snacks.
Snacks. Skinner, he practically leveled the thing. Sonic said he caught Gizmo perched on the remains of his topiary, looking as smug as a gator possibly can.
Smug Gizmo? Oh, I need to see that. Did Sonic get a picture?
He tried, but the little rascal scurried off before he could snap it. Smart gator. If only he applied that brain power to not destroying property.
You know, I think Gizmo's just misunderstood. Maybe he's expressing himself artistically. Who's to say that hedge wasn't better as modern art?
Oh, please. If that's art, I'll eat 2 portions of your burned chili.
Hold on, Gary. Don't make promises you can't keep. I've seen you eating my chili before. Remember that podcast episode? You almost cuffed yourself to death.
Fine, you win this round. But if Gizmo so much as looks at Sonic's yard again, he's going on a strict leash diet this time. Laughs while stroking Gizmo, who is sitting under the podcast table. And speaking of dietary habits, what's this I hear about you and a certain relaxation regimen?
Relaxation regimen? Oh, you mean my newfound appreciation for the finer things in life.
Finer things. That's a suspiciously sophisticated way to describe your little trips to Melissa's shop. Care to elaborate, Yamer?
Ah, Melissa's shop. Our dear Loomis must have told you well. It's not what you think, sweetheart. It's an herbal sanctuary. A haven for teas, spices, and other delightful curiosities. Frankly, I'm surprised it took me this long to discover it.
Teas and spices, huh? That's the story you're sticking with, because I've heard some pretty colorful rumors about what's in those jars of hers.
Oh, come now, Gary. Don't believe everything Swampy tells you. Remember when he said her tea gave him telepathic powers?
Right, and he spent an hour staring at Master Chief, claiming they were having a deep existential conversation. Classic Swampy.
Exactly, Melissa's goods are perfectly wholesome. Well, mostly. There's a blend or two that could be misinterpreted, but let's save that for later in the show, shall we?
Oh, I can hardly wait. You're already halfway to convincing me this episode will be a treasure trove of nonsense. So, what can our listeners expect today?
Laughter, intrigue, and a deep dive into Memfield's hidden gems. We're peeling back the layers of mystery surrounding Melissa's little shop, one hilarious anecdote at a time.
Hidden gems, huh? Let me guess. You're about to regale us with your life-altering experience buying some tea that smells like a botanical garden exploded.
Close, but it's more than just tea. It's a whole lifestyle, Gary. Melissa's shop is the kind of place that makes you feel like you've stumbled into a secret society of relaxation aficionados.
Relaxation aficionados. Is it what we're calling it now? All right, Yamer, you've got my curiosity. But don't forget, I'll be keeping you honest.
Honesty is my middle name. Well, technically it's Leonard, but honesty fits the spirit.
Leonard, I thought your middle name was Armin. Or Walter. Well, anyways, honey, I think we're learning too much about you today. Let's reel it in before this podcast turns into the secrets of Seymour Skinner, which is actually called Armin Tamzarian, but everybody in Memfield calls him Skinner on way.
Fair enough, Gary. Now, before we get sidetracked by my middle name, let's dive into why Memfield is the quirkiest, most wonderful place to call home.
Oh, it's quirky, all right. Between Sonic's hedge wars, Swampy's tall tales, and your escapades at Melissa's shop, We've got enough material for an entire series.
And the best part, the stories just keep getting better. So buckle up, listeners. This ride is just getting started. All right, Chalmers, picture this. It's a Tuesday evening. The sun's setting, and the faint smell of victory is wafting through the kitchen.
Victory, or was it burnt lasagna again?
Burnt lasagna is a harsh interpretation, but accurate. Let's just say my culinary masterpiece had crispy edges, and I might have underestimated the power of broil.
And instead of owning up to it, you climbed out the window, didn't you? You do this every time, Yamer. You're like a cartoon character escaping his own cooking disasters and just buy fast food to disguise his own cooking.
That would be delightfully devilish. But hey, it's not every time. And technically, I was searching for a backup plan. The idea was to find something quick to salvage the evening. That's when fate, or desperation, led me to Melissa's shop.
Melissa's shop, the one sandwiched between the laundromat and that karaoke bar where Sonic belts out "Livin' on a Prayer" every Thursday.
That's the one, except I'd never really noticed it before. It's so inconspicuous, I half wonder if it's cloaked in invisibility most days. But on this particular evening, there it was, like a beacon of hope.
Or a beacon of last-minute dinner fixes for culinary calamities. So, what drew you in? The bright neon open sign, the promise of edible miracles.
Actually, it was the aroma. Imagine this, the scent of zen mixed with a hint of chaos. It was calming yet exhilarating, like someone had bottled tranquility with just a dash of rebellion.
Tranquility with rebellion. Yamer, you're one jar of Melissa's tea away from writing poetry.
I swear it was hypnotic. I couldn't resist. So, I wandered in, and let me tell you, it was like stepping into another world.
Another world, huh? What was it, incense and mood lighting? Or did you finally stumble upon Memfield's version of Narnia?
A little of both, honestly. The place is filled with shelves of the most bizarre and fascinating items. There were teas with names like Giggly Green Tea and Relaxation Revolution, jars of mysterious blends, potted plants that looked like they were plotting world domination, and an entire section labeled, "For Bold Souls Only."
For bold souls only. Sounds like the warning label I'd put on your cooking. Did you dare to venture into that section, or did you stick to the safe choices for panicked principals, Isel?
I stayed firmly in the realm of teas and herbs. But Melissa herself is just as fascinating as her shop. She's got this air of mystery, like she's seen things, botanical things, that we mere mortals can't even comprehend.
Oh, so now Melissa's a plant wizard. Next, you'll tell me she has a secret garden with singing roses and tap-dancing tulips.
Not far off. I swear some of those plants in her shop were moving. I wouldn't be surprised if she is playing the real-life version of Plants vs. Zombies. There was this one fern that rustled like it was eavesdropping on our conversation.
And did this suspicious fern offer any life advice, or was it just judging you for burning dinner again?
No advice, just passive-aggressive rustling. But Melissa did suggest a blend called Crisis Averted, a soothing tea she said was perfect for moments of culinary regret.
Culinary regret. Sounds like she knows you better than you know yourself. So, did you buy it?
I did, and a few others. I figured if I couldn't salvage dinner, at least I could offer you a cup of exotic tea to distract from the chaos.
Exotic tea. Yamer, you're deflecting again. Let's be honest, this was less about tea and more about covering your tracks. Again.
Okay, fine, you got me. But can you blame me? When you've got Mr. Jellybeans eating socks in one room, Krakow belching smoke in another, and a charred lasagna in the oven, you have to think on your feet.
You know, I'd almost feel sorry for you if this wasn't entirely self-inflicted. But hey, at least you found Melissa's shop out of it. Silver linings, right?
Exactly. And honestly, I'm glad I did. It's not just a shop, it's an experience. I'll tell you more about it later in the episode, but let's just say Melissa's got something special going on there.
I'm intrigued, Yamer. Listeners, you heard it here first. Our resident principal has entered the world of herbal curiosities. Stick around, folks. This ride is just getting started.
Yeah, well, so Gary, after my initial foray into Melissa's shop, I found myself chatting with the woman herself. Let me tell you, She's every bit as fascinating as her store.
Oh, I'll bet. Let me guess. She's an intergalactic traveler traveling with Dar, who's settled in Memfield to study the quirks of small-town chaos.
Not quite, but you're not far off. Turns out, Melissa used to be a botanist, one of those brilliant, eccentric types who couldn't care less about societal norms. She specialized in experimental gardening, which, in her words, means making plants do things plants aren't supposed to do.
Say more. Are you telling me this woman was out there teaching daisies to dance and roses to rap?
I wouldn't put it past her, but her real claim to fame was researching plants that could thrive under extreme conditions. Get this, she even worked with volcanic soil from Krakatoa.
What soil from Krakatoa? That's not just extreme, that's borderline insane. What was she trying to grow, lava-resistant tomatoes?
Something like that. She told me she once cultivated a fern that could survive temperatures hot enough to melt cheese. I asked her why, and she just shrugged and said, because someone had to.
That's the kind of logic I can respect. Leave it to Memfield to attract someone who thinks lava-proof ferns are a worthwhile pursuit.
Well, after her stint as a volcanic botanist, Melissa decided to retire to Memfield. And by retire, I mean she turned her talents toward running the quirkiest shop this side of reality.
Of course she did, because in Memfield, retirement means opening a store where plants can judge you. Speaking of which, what's this I hear about her pet plant?
Ah, Bertram. Yes, Melissa has a talking plant named Bertram who loves to heckle customers. I didn't believe it at first, but then I heard him with my own ears. I walked in, and the first thing he said was, "Nice tie, principal. Did you get it from the clearance bin?"
No, a plant roasted you. Oh, I need to meet this Bertram. Did you fire back, or were you too stunned?
Too stunned. I mean, how do you even respond to a plant? He just rustled his leaves smugly like he knew he'd won.
That's incredible. Only in Memfield could a plant have more wit than half the population. What's his backstory? Was he part of Melissa's experimental gardening phase?
Exactly. Melissa said Bertram was a happy accident, a byproduct of her experiments with cross-pollinating high-intelligence plants. She was trying to make flora smarter, and Bertram just happened.
Smarter. Simmer, we're on the verge of a botanical revolution here. If Bertram starts a podcast, we're out of a job.
Don't give him any ideas. But honestly, Bertram adds to the shop's charm. It's not every day you get life advice from a fern.
And Melissa, does she just roll with it, or is she secretly plotting to turn the whole shop into a botanical talk show?
Oh, she rolls with it. She even uses Bertram to liven up her biannual tea leaf readings. Apparently, he likes to interpret the leaves for her customers, often with sarcastic commentary.
Tea leaf readings. Now you're telling me she's part botanist, part mystic. What else does she do? Read fortunes in kale chips.
It wouldn't surprise me, but her tea leaf readings are surprisingly popular. People come from all over Memfield to hear her insights. Of course, half the draw is Bertram's comedic interjections.
I can't believe this town. You've got a sarcastic plant volcanic botanists and a principal who burns dinner so often he needs an herbal escape route. What's next?
Well, I didn't even tell you about the humming jars.
Humming jars. All right. Samer, you're officially holding out on me. What are humming jars?
They're part of Melissa's Bliss Buds collection. Imagine jars filled with tiny, luminescent plants that hum when you touch them. It's like they're singing you a lullaby, or performing a tiny concert just for you.
Singing plants. Are you sure you didn't wander into some kind of enchanted forest instead of a shop? Or were you just stoned out of your mind?
It felt like it. Well, I mean, the first part, Melissa explained that the humming is a natural vibration from the plant's unique cellular structure. But honestly, I think she's just being modest. Those plants are magical, Gary.
Magical or Memfield weird. Either way, I'm sold. I need to see this shop for myself. Between the sarcastic fern and the singing jars, it sounds like a fever dream.
It's a dream, all right. And honestly, it's one of those places that reminds you why Memfield is so special. Where else can you find volcanic botanists and talking plants living in perfect harmony?
Nowhere else. Samer. Nowhere else.
So, Gary, after spending what felt like an eternity marveling at humming jars and dodging verbal jabs from Bertram, I finally told Melissa why I'd come in.
Oh, let me guess. Hello, I'm Seymour Skinner, and I've reached a critical juncture in my life where I need something to stop me from throwing my entire kitchen out the window.
Not quite that dramatic, but close. I told her I was looking for something to help me unwind after what had been a particularly stressful week at Memfield Elementary. You know how students are when it's glitter day and someone smuggles in a kazoo.
Glitter and kazoos, that's a recipe for chaos. No wonder you were desperate. So, what did Melissa offer? A calming tea? Or maybe a time machine to undo glitter day?
I wish it were the time machine, but no. She suggested something she called the green elixir of chill.
The green elixir of chill. Seymour, that sounds like something you'd find in a wizard's potion cabinet, not a tea shop.
I know, right? But Melissa swore by it. She said it was plant-based, perfectly natural, and ideal for moments when life feels like it's running circles around you.
Plant-based and perfectly natural, Seymour. That's how people described salad, not stress relief. Or when marketing people somehow try to get the last bit out of a product. What did it smell like? Fresh cut grass and good intentions.
Close. It had this earthy aroma, like a meadow after a thunderstorm. You know that fresh, invigorating scent right after the rain. It was exactly like that.
So, Melissa bottled the weather now. Seymour, you're really leaning into the mystique here. Are you sure it was not just, something that people maybe tried to, let's say, lift their spirits?
Hey, don't knock it until you've smelled it. The aroma alone was enough to make me feel like a calm, enlightened version of myself.
Calm and enlightened? All right, I'll bite. What did you do after this magical meadow encounter? Did you buy the whole jar, or did you just sniff it and call it a day?
Oh, I bought the jar, all right? I wasn't leaving without that elixir. Melissa said it was her best-selling blend, and I figured if it worked for half the town, it could work for me.
Best-selling, huh? Or maybe she just saw you coming and thought, here's a guy who's one burnt casserole away from a meltdown.
That's harsh, Gary, but you're not wrong. Either way, I took it home and brewed myself a cup, and let me tell you, it was an experience.
Care to elaborate, or are you going to leave me and our listeners hanging here?
Well, the moment I took a sip, it was like this wave of calm washed over me. My brain stopped racing, my shoulders relaxed, and suddenly, I didn't care that I'd spent an hour trying to explain fractions to Krakatoa the volcano.
Wait, you tried to explain fractions to Krakatoa. Seymour, even with the green elixir of chill, that's ambitious.
Hey, he seemed interested. Anyway, the tea was amazing. I've never felt so harmoniously confused in my life. I was just like sitting there, giggling the entire time.
Harmoniously confused? Seymour, that sounds less like stress relief and more like the elixir of poor decision-making.
Call it what you want, Gary, but it worked. For once, I wasn't fretting about students, burnt dinners, or Gizmo's latest escapade. I just existed in a bubble of tranquility.
Don't do drugs, people, really. Don't do it. Else you are ending up like my better half here.
Ha, very funny, honey. But well, you got a point.
Just teasing you, Seymour. But you know, as much as I love teasing you, I've got to admit, this green elixir of chill sounds intriguing. Maybe there's something to this Melissa magic after all.
Oh, there's definitely something to it. And if you're lucky, I might even share a cup with you someday, assuming you can handle the harmonious confusion.
Challenge accepted, Seymour. But if I start philosophizing with your skeleton, old Bartholomew, I'm blaming you.
Fair enough, Gary. Fair enough. You know, Gary for all the magic, or should I say, botanical brilliance. Happening in Melissa's shop, you'd think the townsfolk would leave it at that. But no, this is Memfield. The rumors surrounding her shop are a whole other level.
Oh, absolutely. Leave it to Memfield to turn an innocent tea shop into a hobbit of conspiracy theories. My favorite one so far. That Melissa's secretly running a wizardry club in the back room.
Ah, the Memfield Order of the Mystic Leaves, as Swampy calls it. He swears he saw someone wearing a cloak and carrying a staff walk out of the shop late one night.
A cloak and a staff. Seymour, that was probably just Garfield trying to make a fashion statement. You know how dramatic he gets after his lasagna binges.
It wouldn't surprise me, but Swampy was convinced it was a full-fledged wizard. He even tried to peek through the shop window to gather evidence.
And did he find anything?
Only his own reflection, which he then claimed was a shimmering portal to another dimension.
Classic Swampy. You've got to love his commitment to nonsense. But let's not forget his wildest claim yet, the time he swore Melissa's tea gave him telepathic powers.
Oh, I remember that day vividly. Swampy brewed a cup of her mindful meadow blend and declared, with absolute confidence, that he could now communicate with Master Chief telepathically.
The best part, Master Chief went along with it for almost an hour. They sat across from each other, completely silent, while Swampy just stared at him.
I know, Swampy kept nodding and making these dramatic noises, like he was deep in conversation. And Master Chief, bless him, just kept sitting there, looking increasingly uncomfortable.
You'd think Master Chief would have walked away, but no, he just stayed there. Poor Chief. Do you think he felt obligated to humor Swampy, or was he genuinely curious to see how long this would go on?
Probably a bit of both. At one point, Swampy started laughing uncontrollably, claiming Master Chief had just told him the meaning of life.
And let me guess, Swampy refused to share the answer because it was too profound for the rest of us mere mortals.
Exactly, he said. It's not that you wouldn't understand, it's that you're not ready. Which, coming from Swampy, is peak swampy.
Oh, this town. Only in Memfield could a cup of tea spark a philosophical stare down between a swamp creature and a super soldier.
Super soldier. I prefer soup. Just a small joke, if you know, you know. Anyways, it gets better. Later, Melissa told me that Mindful Meadow is just chamomile with a hint of mint. There's nothing remotely telepathic about it.
Of course, leave it to Swampy to turn basic chamomile into a mind-expanding elixir. Honestly, I'm starting to think Memfield's collective imagination is more powerful than anything Melissa's selling.
Or maybe it's the placebo effect. If you believe hard enough that a cup of tea will give you superpowers, who's to say it won't?
That's a dangerous thought, Seymour. Next thing you know, half the town will be drinking Melissa's teas and trying to fly.
I wouldn't put it past them. But you know, it's stories like this that make Memfield so unique. Sure, the rumors are ridiculous, but they're also what keep this place lively.
That's true. I mean, where else could you find a town that turns a tea shop into a hub of wizardry, telepathy, and supernatural? Intrigued.
Nowhere but Memfield, Gary. Nowhere but Memfield. And as absurd as it all is, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Me neither. Say more. All right, listeners, we're far from done.
Indeed. Gary, so everyone buckle up because my first experience with Melissa's tea was, well, let's just call it transformative.
Oh, transformative, huh? Let me guess. You achieved enlightenment, solved world peace, and finally figured out how to keep Gizmo from eating your socks.
Close, but not quite. The tea was so calming that I ended up sitting down with old Bartholomew, you know, our pet skeleton, and we started philosophizing about the meaning of existence.
You and our skeleton had a deep conversation about existence. Please tell me Bartholomew had some groundbreaking insights, like life is short, stay bonny.
Not quite that pithy, but he did ask some compelling questions. Well, I asked the questions, and I imagined his answers. At one point I said, Bartholomew, what is the purpose of it all? And in my mind, he replied, to embrace the absurdity, Seymour.
Embrace the absurdity, that's rich. Coming from a skeleton who lives in your living room. What happened next? Did you two start a philosophy club?
Oh, it gets better. Somewhere between pondering life's grease-to-miss and staring into Bartholomew's empty eye sockets, I started giggling uncontrollably. After that, Bartholomew was joining in with me.
Giggles. Simmer, you're telling me that tea turned you into a philosophical stand-up comic.
I guess you could say that. It was like everything. Bartholomew, my burnt lasagna, even Gizmo stealing another sock, suddenly felt hilariously inconsequential.
So to recap, Melissa's tea made you and Bartholomew laugh at life's absurdities. Seymour, are you absolutely sure this was tea and not something a little stronger?
Gary, it was tea. Perfectly legal, entirely wholesome tea. You're just jealous you weren't there to join our existential symposium.
Oh, I'm devastated. I missed my chance to discuss metaphysics with Bartholomew. But tell me this, did your Zen moment extend to other areas, like, say, prepping lesson plans?
Funny you should mention that. After my little chat with Bartholomew, I tried to get back to work, but every time I looked at a math worksheet, I couldn't stop giggling.
Let me guess. You found fractions hysterical. Why is 1/3 greater than 1/4? Oh, the comedy of numerators and denominators.
Pretty much. I started imagining Krakatoa the volcano trying to understand fractions, and that set me off even more.
Krakatoa? Yamer, you really thought your pet volcano could grasp fractions.
In my defense, Krakatoa has a surprisingly attentive expression when he's not spewing smoke. It seemed plausible in the moment.
Plausible. Yamer, you've officially lost the plot. Though I suppose if anyone could teach math to a volcano, it's you.
You're not wrong. By the time I'd calmed down, I felt like I'd reached a higher state of intelligence. Granted, it was probably just the tea's relaxing effects, but I like to think Bartholomew and I cracked some universal truths.
Universal truths, like don't let Yamer handle lesson planning after Melissa's tea.
Maybe, but honestly, Gary, it was one of the most peaceful, surreal evenings I've had in a long time. Sometimes you just need a little nudge to see the world from a different perspective.
Oh, I'm sure Melissa's green elixir of chill was just the nudge you needed. Or maybe the shove. Either way, remind me to double check what's in that tea before I try it.
Go ahead, Gary. Be skeptical. But I'm telling you, it's all perfectly innocent. And if you ever find yourself pondering existence with Bartholomew, you'll thank me.
I'll hold you to that, Seymour. Listeners, you heard it here first. Melissa's tea doesn't just relax you. It turns your pets into philosophers and your worksheets into comedy gold.
All right, Gary, I suppose it's time we addressed the question that's probably lingering in the minds of our more perceptive listeners.
Oh, you mean the one about whether Melissa's teas are really just teas, or if they're more, let's say, imaginative blends?
That's the one. And for the record, I'll have you know that Melissa's shop operates completely above board. But I can't deny there's something unique about her products.
Unique is one way to put it. Yamer, I think the phrase you're looking for is cloud-flavored tea leaves.
Cloud-flavored tea leaves, yes. That's a perfect metaphor. Drinking Melissa's blends is like taking a sip of relaxation itself. You know, like when you're floating on a fluffy white cloud, and the only thing you're worrying about is whether you'll run out of sunshine.
Sunshine, or socks in your case. Let's not forget how Gizmo treats your laundry like an all-you-can-eat buffet.
True, but after a cup of Melissa's tea, I don't even get upset about the socks anymore. I just think, well, at least Gizmo has good taste.
Good taste. Seymour, he's eating your socks, not rating Michelin-starred meals. But I see what you mean. This tea of yours has a way of mellowing even the most aggravating situations.
Exactly. It's relaxation in plant form, like a little botanical whisper that says, "Hey, Seymour, take it easy. The world's not going to end if you lose a sock or two."
Or 3 or 4. But you've got to admit, it does make one wonder. Is it just tea, or is Memfield's inherent weirdness adding an extra layer of magic to these blends?
That's a good question, Gary. I mean, we do live in a town where a skeleton can double as a life coach and a volcano takes an interest in fractions. Maybe Memfield itself is the real secret ingredient.
Or maybe, just maybe, Melissa's green elixir of chill isn't entirely what it seems. Care to elaborate, Yamer?
All right, fine. If we're being completely transparent, it's possible, just possible, that some of her blends might lean into the more, let's say, botanically adventurous side of relaxation.
Botanically adventurous, that's the most diplomatic way I've ever heard anyone describe it. Seymour, are you telling me you've been sipping on something a little greener than chamomile?
Let's just say there might be a reason why my giggling fit with Bartholomew was so profound, and why fractions seemed so philosophical when I was explaining them to Krakatoa.
I knew it. So, all this time you've been enjoying what we'll call relaxation with a wink. No wonder you've been so zen lately.
Hey, it works. And honestly, it's made me a better principal. I'm more patient with the students, more tolerant of glitter days, and way less stressed about Gizmo's sock stealing sprees.
Well, I'll give you that. If it's turned you into a sock-stealing Zen master, maybe there's something to this green elixir of chill. After all,
I think there is. But let's be clear, Melissa's shop is perfectly family-friendly. Everything she sells is legal, ethical, and infused with her signature Memfield magic.
legal, ethical, and Memfield magical, that's a trifecta you don't see every day. And hey, if it makes Gizmo's sock crimes easier to handle, who am I to judge?
Exactly. Life's too short to stress about socks, or glitter, or fractions. Sometimes, you just have to brew a cup, take a deep breath, and let the world be as weird as it wants to be.
Wise words, say more. Listeners, if you're not sipping something soothing right now, we highly recommend it. And who knows, maybe a little botanical adventure is just what you need.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Gary. Well, and with that, that's all from us today. Thanks for joining the chaos. Stay safe, stay curious, and remember, there's no fire, no chili, and definitely no need for anything that'll make you see God cubes in your kitchen.
Exactly. Keep it real, folks. Be kind to hedgehogs. Steer clear of wild adventures involving questionable substances, and we'll see you next time. Until then, stay sharp and keep your windows intact.
See you next time, heroes. Stay awesome, Memfield.